Hi, I'm Reese, and I'm a bisexual man. I've identified as bi for a while now, but there are still many things that I don't know about bisexuality. So I thought I'd make this documentary to answer the questions that I've asked over time. Let's get into it. First and foremost, the biggest question of all, what is bisexuality? The first known use of the word bisexual was used in 1793 to describe biological objects with male and female characteristics, such as flowers, plants, or animals. Since then, the term bisexual has evolved to describe the characteristics of humans and eventually the sexuality of people. A common misconception is that the definition of bisexuality is being attracted to men and women, but in 2020, Merriam-Webster changed the definition to being attracted to one's own gender identity and of other gender identities to include people who aren't on the binary scale. Even though the term bisexual is considerably new, it's been around for a very long time. Here's some bisexual history. The first bisexual characters in a film I could find were Paolo and the Visitor in the 1968 Italian film Teorema, directed by Pier Paolo Pasolini. In this film, the Visitor visits Paolo and his family and seduces them all with his charm, leaving the family to deeply reflect on themselves. Bisexuality is used as an almost ethereal trait. The first bisexual in a TV series I could find was Steve Carrington in the iconic show Dynasty, and the first ever known bisexual plus character in literature is Claudine in the 1900 French novel Claudine at School, written by Colette. As time progresses, bisexual plus representation is a lot more common. However, there is still an issue of stereotyping, and the representation of bisexual men is still scarce. On a positive note, Disney's first bisexual character was announced in 2020, 14-year-old Dominican-American Liz Nikita in The Owl House. In 1948 and 1953, Dr. Alfred Kinsey published his books Sexual Behavior in the Human Male and Sexual Behavior in the Human Female, respectively, which included the Kinsey scale, a diagram which demonstrated that sexuality is fluid and that people do not fit into exclusive gay and straight categories. One bisexual advocate icon is Brenda Howard, who helped organise the first Pride Parade in 1970 and is considered to be the mother of Pride. She also successfully lobbied for the inclusion of bisexuality in the 1993 March on Washington, alongside Lani Kahumanu and other activists, during a time when the LGBT movement was mainly focused on gay men and lesbians. I was lucky enough to speak to Robin Oakes and Lani Kahumanu, two bisexual activists that have done amazing work.
I'm Robin Oakes. I live in Boston in the United States, and I have identified as bisexual now for 44 years. And and this is Maggie, who identifies as a cat.
My name is Lani Kahumanu. I am from the San Francisco Bay Area. I have been a bisexual activist and organizer since 1980. Before that, I was a lesbian. And I am a grandmother, and I am working on my activist memoir, which is very exciting, and hopefully will come out by the time I'm 80, which is in 2.5 years.
I came out basically amidst silence, and it was really hard. It was really, really hard. I felt extremely rare. I honestly believe that there were very few bisexual people in the entire world. My proof was that I didn't know anyone who I knew was, and I didn't know how to find anyone else. And it was terrifying. When I finally began to find community and, support and a sense of belonging and information, I started trying to make sure that that information was available to people other than me. Because I know how important it is. After years and years and years of fighting for space for non-binary sexualities and feeling that we were getting nowhere, I felt, we just felt so little traction. I do feel that in the last 5 or so years, there has been a dramatic shift. I can finally name public figures who I admire who are out as bisexual. I can finally name television characters who actually use the word bisexual and whose characters are not offensive. It's something's changed, and younger folks are just so much more comfortable with non-binary things of all sorts. And that's not just sexual orientation, also gender. Like I think that the whole idea of everything being simple and binary is shifted. And we're finally starting to see more clearly and to be able to hold space for the complexities of actual human experience. And I mean, it's not that way everywhere. And not everyone has gotten the memo yet. But it's changing. It's changing in a very tangible way. And I am so excited.
We have come far, but do you think there's still like space to go?
There is so much space to go. There is so much room for improvement. But again, you know, there is so much room for improvement in representation in the media, but it's happening. And I also believe that we have created some of the tools to communicate with the people who create media. So, for example, there's an organization called, I call it GLAAD, Gay and Lesbian Advocates and Defenders. And it's an organization that basically works on LGBTQ plus representation. Yeah, they get listened to now. Like when we see something offensive, there's an organization that actually has the connections, knows who to talk to, and who has the skills to advocate for change, to say what's problematic about something and what we would like to see instead. You know, we're learning how to reach out, and they're listening.
When I, fell in love with a man, I was sitting there going, oh no. I don't know what to do with this. What are people going to think? People are going to think I'm into three ways. People are going to think I'll be sexual with anybody. People are going to think I'm confused. People are going to think, it was all the general public stereotypes, just the information I had. There was no good information that I had ever seen. So I was a pretty good representative of, the general public. And in the 70s, when I heard about bisexuals, it was about swingers, people that married people that wanted to have sex with other people, or it was it was like David Bowie was doing his thing, and so it was kind of a movie star Hollywood thing too. But it wasn't about me. It wasn't about me. You bump into people, and then that's who they see. They see the stereotype, and it's really hard when you're coming out when somebody has that stereotype, and it's that's how you're being perceived, and you're dealing with your own internalized biphobia. And what do you do with that? It's really to come out bisexual is to risk yourself, period, bisexual or not, is a difficult thing, because you don't want to get rejected. You don't want, it's like you want to be accepted. You want people to see all of who you are. And if that's part of who you are, it's step by step. And even when somebody like me, who's taken a lot of steps, being visible, it's still there's still like a little hesitation sometimes, which says a lot.
Yeah.
But as a bisexual, speaking your truth is complex, but I really say holding on to your truth and speaking it and trusting yourself, even if you think you don't have the words or whatever that is, just trust it. Trust what comes out. It's that's a gift. That's a gift to yourself, and it's a gift to the world.
What would you say to someone who knows nothing about bisexuality?
I would start by defining the term. The way I define bisexuality is the following. I call myself bisexual because I acknowledge in myself the potential to be attracted romantically and or sexually to people of more than one gender, not necessarily at the same time, not necessarily in the same way, and not necessarily to the same degree. Every word of that definition is important. the idea that I call myself bisexual, because bisexuality is about self-naming. And I would maintain that each of us is the best expert of ourselves. Each of us knows best what we feel. And I don't believe that other people have the right to tell you that you're not having an experience that you're having. That's disrespectful. So, and also the idea that, not necessarily at the same time, in the same way, or the same degree, the idea that I identified as bisexual for 5 years before I ever dated a woman. How did I know I was bisexual? When you have a crush, you have a crush. I had crushes on girls and then women, I had. And like, that was a fact. That's not something that someone else can say isn't real or true. And also the idea that you don't have to be 50-50, exactly the same amount attracted to people of different genders in order to be bisexual, that you can be basically anywhere that's not at the two edges. That if you've had attractions to people of more than one gender, no matter how much, no matter to what degree, no matter in what percentage, if that feels important to you, if that feels significant to you, then that's real. And that's up to you to decide. And just in generally, and then also I think the difference between romantic and sexual attraction, who makes you hot and who makes you warm. Sexual attraction, who makes you hot, romantic attraction, who makes you warm. Like, those are not the same thing. And I know a number of people who like identify as like homo romantic bisexual or something like that. And so I think that even that's a really important part of understanding the complexities of our experience, that it's not just one thing. It's not just like one switch that's either on or off. Attraction itself is quite complex. And just, I don't know, I feel like that definition really works for me because it's big, it's broad, it's expansive. And if somebody trying to understand bisexuality can absorb that definition, then we can start a good conversation.
My simplest answer is it's about love, and it's about a certain chemistry for me that happens with people, and it's not based on their gender. It's based on a certain chemistry, an energy that happens between two people. And for me, that can grow into a loving relationship or not. But bisexuality for me is trusting my that chemistry, because I know a lot of people they understand that chemistry piece, because you can meet somebody and it's like, oh, and if you're a straight woman and you meet a man and there's that chemistry, they can hear that, or like even a gay or lesbian person too. It's if I frame it as chemistry, that attracts me, and it doesn't have to do with the gender or any of that. It seems to be, for me, a quick, easy way to explain my bisexuality.
So to summarise, bisexuality has always been around and is completely valid. Everyone has different interpretations to bisexuality, but you have the right to identify however you choose. I'm so glad that I went on this journey, and I thank you all for watching. Bye.